All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for checking in. This is our very first episode of Before They Get Famous. Our very first episode of Before They Get Famous. And I am seated here with my first guest, Edward Green of Edward Green Films. We have a lot of really fun stuff to talk about. But before I get into any of that, I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping rules real quick. First of all, you want to make sure that you like and subscribe to SnazzyTV. That's where you will get more of these episodes where I'm going to be bringing to you a lot of really interesting influencers that are going to be coming up on the channel. We're going to do some shout outs real quick. Shout outs are important on this show because these are brands and services and products that we really love, that we use every day, or that we find to be influential in the culture. So first of all, I'm going to shout out the lip bar for this fantastic color that I'm wearing right here. The lip bar is the epitome of what we kind of do here at SnazzyTV, which is create, influence, and be recognized. The creator, founder of the lip bar she pretty much went from being embarrassed on Shark Tank to literally blowing up, like to Michelle Obama wearing her lip color. So shout out to the lip bar for this fantastic color that I'm wearing. Then I'm gonna also shout out Tease in the Trap. So I don't know have you ever heard of Tease in the Trap? Okay, so Tease in the Trap, real quick. They are a t-shirt and accessory company. And they just recently did a promo campaign for Christopher Columbus Day, which we all know as Christopher Columbus Day.
Yeah.
But their version of the sale was Chris Who. and I just love Tease in the Trap because they are a Black-owned company and they are just really bold and influential in the culture, and they have some really cool things if you're kind of into trendy wares. So shout out to Tease in the Trap. And let's see who else. And I think that's it for my shout outs this episode.
Okay.
Ed, you have any?
Yes, you know what? I ain't got the cool paper and stuff like you. I got a Post-it note. But what I want to start off by doing is I want to give a shout out to Care Pictures Love. I'm gonna look over here at y'all, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give a shout out to Care Pictures Love, and that is a Black-owned nonprofit organization. And it's basically, what it does is it's helping those incarcerated that basically you can get pictures to them, you can get letters to them. It's a foundation. It's helping a youth be able to stay in contact with their family. At the same time, it's really, when it comes to growth, when it comes to people being locked down, we all have those family that's probably out there, probably not. Regardless, Care Pictures Love. You can check that out at carepictureslove, I think it's .com or .org. I don't remember exactly which one, but that's definitely an organization where they're doing a lot of good things, especially basically founded out in the San Francisco, so the Bay Area, so that's a good thing there. So we have that quick one that I'll do. Another one that I want to give a shout out to is Light Gear. Now, Light Gear is basically, it's a light company. They deal with a lot of the Hollywood industry companies, and basically providing them with all different sorts of lights. When you're having your Spectres, the Spectrums, your O2s, I know it's probably going over some of y'all head, but basically it's those expensive lights that you see on Hollywood productions. And they actually, I reached out to them when it came to shooting something that we just got done with shooting, and they definitely understood where I was coming from, and they supported me. They provided us with all of the lights that we had on that set. So that's awesome. I definitely want to give a shout out to Light Gear for that, and thank you for being able to help out. Help a brother out. I'll put it that way. You know what I'm talking about there. Exactly. And then I just want to give one more shout out to, and this is a small black business that basically build and instill in growth, and that's what we're trying to do here. And I gotta look at this because I'm gonna probably mess it up.
Go for it.
It's the Official Virgo Suites. Now that's basically Black owned. It's somebody that I grew up with, David, and he's been getting out there. He's definitely in the Bay Area as well. And what he does is he provides. He's a chef or a bakery. I don't know exactly the name that you would probably call that, but he deals with a lot of getting sweets. He'll come over there. He definitely understands the whole COVID compliance. He has things separated as far as he has these strawberry chocolate sweets and cakes and pies and yeah, I'll definitely put that stuff out there and pass it over so we can get those things out. And then a last one that I wanted to throw out there in there is Glimmer of Bliss, and that is just it's actually my sister Tyara, and what that is just right now with all of the stuff going on, you probably just want a little bit of sunshine, just a little bit of light, be able to talk to, you know what I mean, hear different mentors and youth developments. And what Glimmer of Bliss, what Tyra has done is she has have her site out right now, and they have some mentors a part of it. If you're going through any hard times, or if you're going in and you need a little bit of light, what she does is she provides that kind of information. She also keeps you up on what's going on in the latest news, as well as you can be able to reach out for mentorship to be able to, and that's regardless of whatever the situation that you're going through.
Okay.
So you know, man, I'll give out those few right there.
Okay, so you're going to get that,
yes.
Audience, you're going to get that with every single one of these episodes of Before They Get Famous, because we're all about creatives. We're all about, you know, trying to give free promotion to folks that we feel are really influential on social media and in their own industry, in their own right. So a little bit about the Before We Get Famous mission before I talk to our esteemed debut guest here. So, you know, when I first kind of started this idea, I realized that there was a lot of like celebrity news. There are like a ton of people doing celebrity news. And I was like, you know, that's great and good, but I feel like the market is saturated. And I'm like, I'm more interested in talking to people who we don't know, right? So that is kind of where Before They Get Famous kind of came from. So here, we're talking to people that are inspiring, people that are bringing something unique to the culture, and just trying to educate and learn from each other and network, because that is really what Snazzy is all about. So with that said, let's get to the good stuff, okay? So we're gonna have some fun here. So Mr. Ed, all right, so you are the CEO, founder of Edward Green Films, which you founded in 2010. You are a director, of videographer. I feel like videographer is way too small for what you do, but you know, there is that term. But you are definitely a filmmaker. So my first question to you is, because we did talk off camera quite a bit, and you told me a story about some incidences growing up when you were much younger. Yes. About your childhood, and kind of talk to us about that just a tiny bit, because I feel like that's really, really crucial to your story of growth and getting it, as you say.
Okay, definitely. I'll say basically born in Los Angeles, but raised in San Francisco. So I can say I'm from the Bay Area, and you know what, and I got family out there in LA. Ultimately, when I grew up, it was hard times. Now, a lot of times people hear that, they say, oh man, everybody got hard times.
I know.
Reality of it is, you know what? We was homeless for a little bit. I'm not gonna probably go too deep into that, but we definitely, we definitely was homeless, and it was a lot of struggling times. It's we got a big family. I got seven of us total. That's 4 boys, three girls. Right. So when it came to growing up, just what we've been through, it was rough. We had to start off. I mean, we basically came from LA. We was in Betrayal Hill. We were staying over my aunties over there. We kind of got out of that. We were kind of waiting in line for Section 8 housing, seeing whenever that was going to come through. We was homeless for a little bit. A lot of hustling on the streets. So my parents, they taught I say the family of that, the hustling mentality, and the struggle of how, when you get pushed with whatever avenues get thrown in your way, how to continue moving forward. So that's definitely I know we passed the shout outs, but that's definitely a shout out to my mom and dad right there, of going through the struggles. Going through the struggles and trying to make it, and just feeling what that felt like. It definitely was something, but the weird thing it never was bad.
Right.
In a sense,
and you were very young as well. So you didn't, this was kind of normal, maybe, to
Yeah,
you? This was your norm.
Yeah, it was definitely a normal thing because we came out to San Francisco. I think I was like 4 or 5. I know my brother was born, and we basically went through that. And I was moving all the way up to, you know, what I mean, we're looking at to like 12, 13 years old, when we definitely dealt with those struggles. And you know what I mean? Now, if you go down, like if you go to the pier, like Pier 39, and you see people doing handstands and they're doing like backflips and they got their cans out there. Yeah, we was some of those people.
Oh,
so
wow.
you know what I mean? I could do the backflips and all of that stuff. Everything was a hustle. Everything was a grind.
So now you were kind of the storyteller amongst your siblings, and that's really telling when you look at where you are today. And so I don't want to necessarily say that. You know, is it the chicken before the egg, right? Is it that you became a storyteller because of that environment, or maybe you are where you are today because you were doing that back when you were younger? I'm not sure.
Ooh.
That's
it's definitely. I'll say that's definitely something. I'll say I was probably always a storyteller. And that's more along the lines of me talk with my older brother. We would have these conversations just growing up. And what I would use is storytelling was a sense of trying to get away, escapism. You needed to get away from what's happening, right? So when we was hustling on the streets and we're going across and we're asking people for money, same time you're looking at the world that you live in, but you don't necessarily want to be in it at that moment.
Right.
So I would just come up with these ideas. I would just tell stories. I would just live vicariously through whatever stories that I came up with at the time. Going home, me and my older brother would do that. We would just talk to each other, tell stories. We would talk to our little brothers and sisters. We would just always passing these stories. But these are the things that, you know what I mean, to me, it was the reality. It was not, even though it was a story, it was something that after a while you're like, I want people to know. I want people to know this story. I want people to hear it.
right.
And it kind of evolved or whatever. Growth.
Have any of those that you were aware of, because you were very young,
Yes.
have any of those stories or storylines made it into any of your current projects?
Yes.
Oh,
I'll say
interesting.
it's a lot of short films that I've done. There were definitely stories that I've told in the past, and even the weird thing is this film that we just shot. That idea of certain things that I've been through in life all put in there and just kind of going through. The title of it was actually something that I came up with, I want to say like 10, 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was already the idea,
Right there.
but just the growth of what things that I've been through, then you start to understand the craft a little bit more, try to do some short films here and there and really just kind of shape it. So yeah, it's definitely, it's a lot of stuff going on in his head.
So I was gonna ask you, when did you discover, or when did you realize that you wanted to create films? Was it then, at that point, that you were this young kid? When did it really like take hold? Like when you said, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely weird to say like it take hold, because I'll say as a kid I always wanted to make movies. So I would go over there, me and my brother were talking. It was weird. It's probably going to date people a little bit. But just growing up, I would always say, and me and my brother would talk, and I would say, hey, you know what? It'll be cool like to be on the Jay Leno show and talking about
I'm
movie.
not Jay Leno, but you
know what? It's better. This is better. That's what this is.
I'll take that.
That's what this is.
Maybe one day I'll be Jay Leno. I'm just saying.
You know what? Because the reality of it is, it's all about growth.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as a kid, I would always have that thought. No, the reality of it is, I didn't know how to do it though.
Of course.
I just had the ideas, right? I'm like,
Right.
oh, I got this story and I'm going to tell this and it's going to be cool. Somebody's going to like it. But I don't know the process of actually making a movie.
Right.
I just know the story.
Ooh, and we're going to get into all of that. Okay, so exciting. All right, so do you feel like growing up here in California, because I grew up in New York, and in New York, like everybody wants to be an actor. And like maybe in California too, or everybody on the sidewalk is like a filmmaker or whatever. Yeah. Right. Do you feel like growing up in California kind of lended itself to that? Like if you had grown up in Philly, and I don't know, you can't really answer to say what you would have done if you were somewhere else, but Did you feel that influence of growing up in California at all?
It wasn't like it was the cool thing to walk around saying, "Hey, I'm gonna make movies."
Right.
Because it's almost
I think
like
that's what people outside of California
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
We think everybody just wants to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, it's like, "Hey, you make
like-
movies? I want to make movies too." Yeah, definitely not like what
Not
it was
like that.
growing up with.
Okay.
It was more along the lines of you knew you wanted to do it, but you didn't know how hard it was to actually become a filmmaker or to go out there and make a movie. You just knew what you saw on TV. And on TV, you would hear, "Oh, they spend $20 million on a movie." And
Oh, yeah.
it was like, well, you ain't making a movie.
Right.
It's
Won't be doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's cool, but it wasn't like it was any outside influence where you would see, because it seems like if you're like young, and I'm not going to even try to say like to try to put this out there, but being young black from the ghettos, it's not like everybody over there saying we're going to make movies.
Right.
Everybody just want to make it.
Just want to make it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And whatever that may be.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. It just want to make it.
Yeah.
So to have an idea of saying you want to be a filmmaker, it wasn't like I looked at my neighborhood growing up where I could see people that was filmmakers. You know what I mean?
right.
So it was more along those lines of, it was something that I kept with me, and I would
Yeah.
tell the stories to whoever wanted to hear them, kind of thing.
All right.
Yes.
So you are a Marine.
Yes.
And I learned a long time ago never to say former anything as it relates to the service, because that is definitely disrespectful. So just, FYI, folks. So you're a Marine. Thank you very much for your service. You put that out there first and foremost. And you've served in various war zones. Talk a little bit about that in terms of, was there any influence from the military that you've maybe taken away that you have brought with you now on this new path?
Yeah.
Well, how did that transition even happen?
Yeah, I'll
From
say.
Marine to filmmaker.
And I'll put it like, looking at the military was definitely, it was definitely good for me. And I'm not going to say that I put, like, you'll hear some people that when they look at the military is like, I give that everything. No, to me, the military was a chapter of my life. Okay. And me being a Marine, even to this day, got a tattooed on my leg. But for the most part, what the military did for me, what the Marines did, it actually solidified a lot of things that I actually already kind of looked at. And it let me know the importance of hard work. Because they're going to put it at you. It's hard. It's going to be constant. And me, I've served a few terms in the Middle East where I was at war. Yes. But what it did was, it gave me a little bit more of enlightenment. Because regardless of where you go, there's always something happening.
Right.
And then it's like, even if it's happening, the influence of what you take on that is going to change your life. Now, it can maybe change your life for the worse, or it can change your life for the better. It's only how you take it. Just as I said earlier, with me being on the streets, it was like, it was never bad.
Right.
Because it's how you take it. The way you take it in. If you take it in and you do something good with it and positive, you can make the best of it. And
you went in very young.
Yes, I joined at 17.
Wow.
So parents had to
So
put
you were
that
a
parental
baby.
consent. Yes, I was a
Wow.
youngster. Right. So doing 8 years there, it definitely was something. And I've met a lot of good people that built up and showed different ways of viewing life. There, I think that's where I really honed in as far as the discipline side goes.
Oh, yeah.
And you definitely gonna get some discipline in the military, and especially the Marines. Yeah. So there, I honed in the discipline side, as well as when I was in Iraq in 2003, being the platoon sergeant. One thing I did was, because you didn't have it wasn't like if you're out there that you can just go to the parties and the clubs. No, you're there. So you're in this environment that, regardless of what everybody say, you're scared, you're nervous, you're just trying to go through it. But you have to save face. You have to be this solid thing. This is what I am, and blah, blah, blah. Being a platoon sergeant, no difference. And you have to make sure that you keep in your Marines, you keep them in the right mindset. So what I would do is I was actually telling the Marine stories. So that keep everybody's brain occupied. And I would come up with some crazy, these are different fantasies where you're hearing this and that, and people involved in them. And then it takes your mind off of what's going on to make sure that when you get back home, you have some of those good memories, some of those good thoughts, instead of just living there in fear. And that's why I said it solidified my place of wanting to do this filmmaking thing, because I was like, here, even though it's a time of war and the fear, that you can also pass information and stories that can pull people out of the current situation, take their mindsets off of that.
What is the biggest thing that you have brought with you from the Marines into this current life of yours as a filmmaker?
Ooh, yeah.
What is the most valuable, or the thing that you have keep with you the most from your Marine life?
I'll say it's probably the discipline. And I'll say the discipline as in the sense of it's more of the mental side of that discipline, because I think that when we go for something, it's so many distractions. Or it's so many fears. That's just in general. Anything you want to try, it's a fear there. The discipline that the military sends you through boot camp, of going through this 13 weeks of hell, in a sense, and trying to build you up. The main thing they're trying to do is they're trying to push you to your limits, see if you're going to break. They want to break you. And then when you break, they want to continue pushing you to show you that even though you broke, you can do more. And you're not, it's not over. And being able to go through that, and that's just boot camp. And then you're going through being young. I was 21 and in charge of 56 Marines. So that being young and still moving and moving forward, trying to figure it out, knowing that you had to have an answer. It don't have to be the right one, but it just got to be an answer. Yeah,
or
right?
at least you knew how to get it.
Yeah, and that right there is something that when I left out of the Marines, and still to this day, that way I look at it is, I'm like, yeah, you can go through a breaking point, but you still have to go. And you still have to continue going.
One of the things I think with entrepreneurs or creatives, influencers, is taking that leap, right? Like, I know you've heard that term before. It's like, you know, when do this day job is on my last nerve. I just want to create. I just want to, you know, whatever that thing might be. If it's a filmmaker, or if it's a, you know, a visual artist, or if it's somebody, if you just want to be a YouTuber or whatever, right? So how did you take that leap? Like, share with the audience, like what that felt like, you know, at what point, you know, did you find the courage to say, you know what? If at all, I'm gonna do it.
It's definitely two moments. One moment that I'm gonna say is a current moment, and this is, I say current, this is as 2016.
Oh, that's current.
Now, if I said this is a current moment where I literally went just full in. Now, I'm going to mention that one first, because it's, to me, it was the biggest changing point where I knew, like, hey, this is what it is. I was doing executive protection, security, bodyguard, and everybody got different types of names for it. But I was doing that, and I've done that when I got out of the Marines. And then I transitioned into security field, and I started doing that in 2010. And I was doing security with building my business, Evergreen Films, and continuing doing both, because you got to be able to manage. Okay, you got to pay the bills, right?
Gotta
and
pay
then
the bills.
So the bills got to be paid, and then
gotta pay the bills.
Yes, all right, like this. Bills, they have to be paid. Right.
You can be creative as you want to be, but you got to pay the
bills. Have to be paid, right? And in 2016 is when I actually transitioned, where I was telling my wife, I was like, hey, I need to get out of the security field, and I need to just do video filmmaking full time. Like, I need to make the jump. Even if the jump is into another job, that job needs to be something dealing with filmmaking or video creating. And that is the hardest thing, because when you look at your background and you say, I'm from the hood, I was in the Marines, and then I was doing security. Yes, right. And yes, I graduated in college and got my degree in filmmaking. But a degree is paper, and that don't necessarily mean experience.
Sure doesn't.
I've done weddings and doing wedding videography, and you're doing all of these different things on the side. But to do a full job, I was just like, you know what? I need to take that leap. And the reality of it is, you're going to be scared. I was scared as shit. Let me look. Scared as shit. Right? I don't know if I should be cursing on here.
Yes, you can.
But that's the reality. Right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make the leap. To do that, I like to speak it into existence. But at the same time, I went to my wife, I said, hey, because with doing a security field, you have every like 2 years, you got to renew your guard card, your firearms card, so you can carry all of these things. I looked down and I was just like, hey, to my wife, I'm like, I'm not going to renew this.
Wow.
Because I'm going, this is it.
You said this is it.
Yeah. And I will start applying for jobs, and I'm doing this stuff, and man, I'm talking about sweat is crazy. I'm trying to figure it out. And I was like, yeah, but I know that it's time. Like, the only way it's going to really happen is if I get out of here, and I have to do it.
Right.
So it was a month before my guard card expired is where I got a job, where I was basically came in there as a video producer and editor.
Wow.
And I literally was like, all right, I'm going. Like, I was going regardless. It didn't matter. I told my wife, I was like, if I don't have a job, I'm just going to be doing evergreen films and picking up funds there. And that's what it's going to be. But I knew that the only way you're going to really make it happen, because you hear the quotes, all right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you get tired of the quotes, but it's just reality, right? It's like, oh, stay hard. Yeah. Right. The reality of it, you get tired of hearing it all. Because you like, yeah, but you don't know about my life.
But exactly.
Right? You don't know what I'm going through.
You don't know the bills I
Yeah, you know what I got to do, though? I got to pay. Yeah, it's one of those. But to me, I was saying, you know what? The only way it's going to happen is if you make it happen.
If you make it happen.
And I just leaped. And when I did that, that was one of the hardest things that I've done. And I'm not going to say as hard as what I had to do it. It's because of fear.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I have that right here. Was it scary?
But yeah,
I needed to write that down.
But that was like, holy shit. It was literally that.
Yeah.
But doing that leap and making it happen, that's the ultimate thing that really helped me out, because I knew I had to go for it.
And that's a really, really important part of this story, your story, this show, right? Before they get famous. Because, you can look at so many celebrity stories, but, they never really tell you. They never tell you about, the days of begging. Some of them do, but, they don't. They don't really give you the real. They just want to show you what it's like to be glamorous and spend tons of money and millions on cars and stuff. And you never really hear that backstory of, what did it take to actually jump off the ledge? Because that's really essentially what it is. Like either quitting that job or, within reason though, you can't just, like you said, you got to pay bills. So you can't just quit your job. Don't think we're telling y'all to do that. We're not telling you to do that. But like you did, you set yourself up so that you could still maintain your family, maintain your household. You have to be smart.
Yes.
About it.
Definitely have to be smart. It's just I think that some people think that just leaping and letting your wings come out on the way down means just saying F everything else and go. No, it means
that's not what
actually
we're saying at all.
Thinking correctly and taking the proper steps. But what some of those steps may be, people look at fear as this, oh, well, I can't get through that. If it's just fear, that shouldn't stop you. If you can figure it out, do that. Right. You have to go for it. That's the thing.
And even like we were talking about strategy and being smart about those choices that you make when you jump off that ledge. You going to school, you didn't just say, oh, I want to make films and didn't have any knowledge to do it. You kind of need some very instrumental, tools and knowledge and skills to learn how to do that. So for you, those steps were, okay, I'm going to go to school so that I can do this officially, So, okay. What about opposition? Now, that is another thing, right? And so who were the naysayers, I'm not saying you should call anybody out, but just in general.
Like, hey, no.
I did it. That's right. Now I'm here. Now what?
Yeah.
No, where did you get a lot of opposition from? Was it, did you find there to be opposition from your Marine cohorts, from family, friends? What did that, because that's kind of, it's not important. You don't want to put a whole lot of emphasis on that.
Yeah.
But just know that that's what you're going to get.
You don't want to give the haters too much gasoline.
Exactly.
But I will say that
how did that affect you?
Yeah, as far as opposition, I'll tell you, when I was in the military doing that, and I told people that, hey, I'm gonna make movies, it was always look like, yo, Ed, you work out, you do this thing, we need to go do this, we can contract a gig doing security, we can do some protection thing. Everybody was focused on that. It was like, hey, you can be a cop, you can go do this, you can go do that. Why are you gonna do this? right? Because they don't know
They don't know
They
what's
hear the
inside.
story, they're like, man, come on. So it was a lot of that, what I got from the military, I'll say friends or homies or whatnot. But the reality of it is, the way I've always been straightforward. To me, I've always been very proud of my scars. I've been proud of the hard times, the struggles. I put that out there. I walk with my chest out, my head up, because the way I look at it is, you're going to see something real. And when you see something real, it's hard for people to really take a look at that, because a lot of people want to be real, but they don't. They want to hide and let me see what this thing, because they feel like that's what it needs to be. So as far as opposition, I didn't really get a lot as far as really people saying that I can't do it, because I constantly say that this is what I'm going to do. And then I research, I study, and I start trying it. And I fail a lot, but everybody's like, oh, we've seen him fail 1,000 times, but he still keeps going, and then he makes it.
For me, I feel like transparency
Yes.
is like one of the most important character traits a person can have, because it's a lot harder to put you in a box when you're transparent, because you've already said this is what I am about, and it's not even so much what you say, but it's your actions.
Yes.
Right. It's like, okay, so people may have naysayed you, right, being a filmmaker, but then you went to school and actually got your degree.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, maybe he was really, maybe that was really what he was planning to do. And it's like, okay, well, that's exactly what I was
I'll say one thing, not trying to dive on this too much, but one thing I can say is when I was in film school, and I was at the Academy of Art, University of San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Right, but when I was there, when I was at film school, what they did was, it was this one, I think he was a substitute teacher, and I had this directing class. And the teacher was talking to us, and it was like, yeah, if you want to make it, you need to go to Hollywood. You need to move out over there and blah, blah, blah. And I was saying, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a movie here. And she was like, well, you can't do that. You can't do it. I was like, no, you can do it. And she was like, well, you know how hard it is if you want to do this thing. So I had to hit her with some knowledge, because I just don't go to class and take that information. I do research afterwards as well, because to me, that's how you're going to make it. You have to go reach out here, reach out there, everything.
Lots of different resources.
Yes.
It's like, you can't get all your water from one fountain.
Exactly. So yeah, it was definitely one of those things. So what I told her, I was like, you know what? This is my thing. And then I hit her since she wanted to talk about history and things. I was like, well, the film industry, it started off developing in New York. And then you had all of these things. You even had Kodak. They didn't even want to sell to independent filmmakers. And this is back in the days. So when it came to the film, just filmmaking and creatives, it was a lot of independent filmmakers that could not make movies. Some of these filmmakers, some of these independent filmmakers were Warner Brothers, Columbia, right? So, Universal, they were all independent at the time. And then as growth started happening, they said, well, we can't make movies. That big, in New York, those big production houses, they didn't even want to sell, because they were connected with Kodak. They was like, we're not even sell you film.
Right. Wow.
So now they had them on there. So what did they do? A lot of these small independent filmmakers, they moved to Hollyland or Hollywoodland. They moved to LA to build their own thing up. Now that ended up being the bigger and better thing. New York ended up falling a little bit slow. LA started blowing up. That's where Hollywood come from. Now you got the big powerhouses like the MGMs, the Warner Fox, and all those things. Those were those independent filmmakers.
Yeah, there is so much happening in the industry right now, and I get into that a little bit more later. No one can say what can't be done.
Yes.
You can't do that anymore. You just really can't.
Yeah.
Because there are just so many people like you, like me. When I got jaded with journalism as it is today, I said, you know what? How about I'm just create my own thing?
Yeah.
I'm just going to create my own thing. And we've been able to do that. You found a niche for what you intend to do, and I found one, and so many other YouTubers and IG folks. Okay, let's look at modeling, for example. The modeling industry. So many years that industry was on lock. Then comes along IAG. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's like Wilhelmina who, right? We don't need you, Wilhelmina models.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was off on a tangent on
like
that.
this. Definitely.
Okay, so since we were talking about, this is a perfect segue, because now we're going to get into some of the more juicy stuff about your actual creative, which is the directing thing. So just for the people, if you could, can you give us the fundamental difference between director, producer, and writer?
Yes.
And I will preface that by saying you do all of it, right?
Yes.
Which is amazing, extremely multi-talented. But I feel like, now because there's so many people out there doing so many different things, those terms are often like all mingled up, and it's like, well, so-and-so wrote that. No, they didn't actually write that. They produced it, but they didn't write it. So it's can you kind of give us a little bit of, just a very short snippet?
Yeah, short snippet. Well, I'll say producer is what you kind of hear. They're producing. And then producing can go as finding locations. They could be the one that's hunting down the money, finding budget. They're the ones that's reaching out to making sure that like locations are locked down. Where are we going to be getting food? That's why you have so many different types of producers: executive, associate, regular producer. So these are all people they're going to be helping produce. They're the ones that's going to reach out to say, hey, you know what? We need this actor. They're going to probably reach out to go find that. They're producing. So they're literally trying to find and figure out, what if we need more money? They have to go figure out where, we need to make a fundraiser. Do we need to start a Kickstarter or GoFundMe or this? They're the main ones just trying to grab everything. What if you don't have a script, but you want to make a movie? They're going to go look and see where's the good scripts at. They try to bring back a script. So the producer, they don't want a lot of producing of the film. Now, these could be so many different variants.
Of course.
Then you got a director.
Okay.
Director, they're the ones that's going to have this creative idea. They have this passion. They don't necessarily have to be the writer, but they have this. They take a script that they see. They're going to bring that to life. They're going to see fundamentally, creatively, they are there. They know how to talk to actors to bring out certain emotions, to bring out certain things that's going to make this piece come alive. Okay. So a director, they're literally directing when it comes to on set. So they want to make sure that, hey, guess what? I need you to bring this much, blah, blah, blah. Not necessarily telling them how to do something verbatim, but you need to understand how, depending on when you talk to people, you need to know how to get your message across. Okay. Now, that's not actors. You might have to do that with your DP, which is the director of photography, the camera person. So you have to be able to. So
they're directing everything.
Yes, you have to be able to know how to talk to your DP to make sure that he's going to light, or he's not going to light, but he's going to capture this moment. If you can't tell your story and explain it to him, it's going to be hard for him to capture what you want. So everything works hand in hand. He's basically the glue that's going to keep everything together, right? Okay. And the writer, just as it sounds.
Just the writer. So you have done all three in certain things that you've created. Do you feel that gives you, is it harder to do all three, or like, are there ever times where you would prefer having a director so that you can, or maybe you can only direct and not have to have written the thing, because writing takes forever. You know what I mean? How does that work when you do them all?
Yeah, it's definitely harder. And I would prefer to just like direct and write. Now, the reason why I say prefer that, because the director, you get to really get your creative sides in there. That's what I grew up doing, a storyteller. I have all of these ideas that I want to get out there. When it comes to locking down a location, if I say I want to be able to shoot at a train station, I don't want to have to go look for it. I don't want to figure out how much it's going to cost, what permits we need.
Get it.
The producer is going to take care of all of that. Now, they're definitely going to get like scout list things that producers, you have other teams and stuff. That's why the credits are so much. So it's definitely people. I don't want to be putting like scout locations. It's definitely a lot, but the producer will take a lot of that away from the director. So they can just go. They can find a location. The director can say, you know what, this would be cool if we have this shot here at a Bank of America. And then guess what? Next thing you know, producer is doing all of this magic behind the
wheel. The next thing you know, you got Bank of America.
You got Bank of America. And then they'll say, hey, let's come over there and let's go check a look at this. Let's scout this location. And you can look at it. You're like, this is awesome. This is what I'm talking about. Yes, it just mysteriously appeared. Right? That's in the director's eyes. As a producer, you're literally having to look at the budget, to know what we have for that, and you have to do it. So the producer is definitely doing a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. As soon as that's all set, the director has a lot to do. But each have their own section, and they can go for like, oh my God, doing all three of them. It's that balance. So you have to be creative as well, because actors are looking for that direction, that guidance, of making sure that they can give you exactly what you're looking for in this script. And you have to be creative with them to be able to let them kind of spread their wings, being able to let them bring that role to life. But at the same time, if you're thinking in the back of your head, like, oh, we only got this place for one day because we only got this amount of money.
Right.
You're trying to juggle all of these
hard.
hats. You're juggling all these hats. And that's what you're doing if you're, you know what I mean, carrying all the hats in a sense.
All of that. Oh my gosh.
Not good. I would just say that,
easy.
hey, you know what I mean? But as an independent filmmaker, that's where you're going to be for the most part. You're going to be that.
Until you get to that point where you don't have to do all three necessarily. Okay.
It's like, you know what I mean, when we look at the Tyler Perry's and how he's pretty much built. Now, this is not his films because I'm not going to act like I'm a big Medea fan.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. My mom loves Medea.
Yeah.
I've watched a few of them. It's just not, remember, I'm an action. I like all of these things. So when it came to it and I looked at it, I'm just like, man, what this guy's done. And then he built up his own thing in Atlanta, built his own. I'm like this. That's what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? So it's those type of things where you pulling, and I'm like, all right, I like what this person's doing. I like what these person's doing. So as far as inspiration, it's so many different ones, but it's particular things that I'm pulling away from people.
Each
Yes.
person. So since you mentioned Tyler Perry, let's talk about him. So I am a fan.
Yes.
Just like you, I am, however, not the biggest fan of Medea.
Yeah.
But I am a fan of Tyler Perry.
Yes.
So not too long ago, I'm going to think maybe this past summer, Tyler Perry got a lot of flack online.
Yeah.
You know, kind of got roasted, and a couple other, you know, negative things were said when it was learned that he does all of his own writing.
Yeah.
And I wanted your thoughts on that. Like, you know, is that a bad thing? Because the way he came out with it was like, you know, I'm grinding. Like he showed the big stack of like, you know, I've written all of this, and people were like, you know, and you could either love it or hate it. And a lot of people were like, well, that explains a lot. You know, like all of his stuff is the same and blah, 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 blah. Feel however you want to feel about his process. The man is a genius.
Yes.
Okay. But I want your take on that. Like, how does that, the fact that he's writing all of his own stuff, does that dim the creative light a little bit?
No. I would say, no, what he's doing is what he's doing. And that's one thing I'll say is if we have to look at what everybody else say about us and we try to say, I'm going to shift for you, or I'm going to make it what you want it to be, then you're not being true to yourself. If that's what you want to do, you can make 1,000 Medeas. And I'm not saying, but if he wanted to make 1,000 Medeas, if he has an audience for that, then that's good. I think that some people feel like everybody needs to be expanding and reaching out hands to everybody. Like, I don't need to be trying to make you happy and you happy and you happy.
There's this culture of pleasing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you can't please everybody. It's just impossible.
Exactly. Because somebody's not going to like what you're going to do.
Right.
And I think that what Tyler Perry's doing is he basically at that time, and he's still doing it now, he took a stand. He was like, no, this is what I'm doing. Now, if somebody wants something different, then they should go make that fucking different.
Exactly.
That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? But that's how I look at it. Because the reality of it is people are like this. No, I expect more from you. Well, no, see, that's the thing. You shouldn't expect anything.
Right.
You should just, if you want to see his films, go see his films. Because is he a genius? Hell yeah. Is he building a lot of stuff from scratch? Hell yeah. That's what a lot of people can't do. So people want to nitpick and find anything. Well, that's why all your shows look the same or sound the same or this is the same. You're like, yeah, but you know what?
So what?
Guess what? If we look into filmmaking, you got certain amount of genres and you got so many stories that you're going to tell. They're going to all bleed into each other.
Exactly.
Guess what? If he's bundling up his thing, he found his niche. And to me, I'm like this. People shouldn't give anybody flack first off of what they're doing. Right. If you love his work, just love his work. And if you saying, oh, it'd be cool if he did something different, guess what? It's a director for that.
Exactly.
You can go see that
Y'all hear this? It's a director for that.
Yes.
Y'all leave Tyler Perry alone.
Exactly. Exactly. He's doing good. And I think that a lot of times you can learn from it. Learn from it. Look what he's doing. Take notes. Now, if you need to deviate and make something the way you want it to be, guess what? It's going to be stuff you want.
Well, would you, or have you ever considered producing and or directing something that you haven't written?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And the reasons why I would do that, and this is nothing against, to me, I feel like this. Creatively, I've spoke with people that I've worked on other short films where I was assistant director or I came in as a producer, and I basically helped bring that to life. Now, my input on it is that you're going to be able to see my thumbprint. Now, if it's a story that so-and-so wrote, and then a bigger company said, hey, you know what? We want to produce this, and we like what Ed did. We want you to direct this. By them reaching out to me, meaning that they understand what I do. And what I do is I'm going to put my thumbprint on it. Gotcha. So I would take that. I'm going to read it. I'm going to talk to the writer. I'm going to talk to the producers. I'm going to hear what their expectations are. And then I'm going to tell them what mine is. And if they don't like that, then it's not for me to direct.
Exactly. But so what is your style? Like, what would you say your style is? So we talked about a few of these creators that we know of as celebrities. What would you say Ed Green's style is? Like, what's your niche? And do you need one as a filmmaker?
I don't think you need one, but at the same time, I think that niche kind of creates your voice. I think that my niche in per se is that it's that authenticity. If we're going to have a fight in the film, I want to make sure that it's real. Like, it's not necessarily that you're going to have people really punching, but it's going to look real. Yeah. People get tired when they fight. They never show that too much. People go through 1,000 people. They punching.
That's so true.
Like, well, you know what? You fight 2 people.
Right. Or their hair never gets messed up.
Yeah. It's like afterwards they do one of those and they keep it moving. I'm like, really? What kind of stamina you ain't doing it? Yeah. So I like things to be real. It's just like if I have guns or things in films. Me being in the military and understanding and how to operate guns, I don't like people that don't know. I don't want you to look like you don't know how to operate a gun if you're somebody that's supposed to know how to operate a gun.
Right.
And if you don't know, then let's make sure you don't know. In a film.
Exactly.
Because I want it to be authentic.
You want it to look like you don't know. All right. So let's move on to some stuff that you have actually done. So we're talking about your product, your creativity. So I'm going to talk about some short films where you have actually won awards. Yes, he has won lots of awards. So we've got Trapped.
Yes. Which
I'm going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. Audience Choice in the Bay Area Short Film Festival. And also won a semifinalist in the prestigious International Film Festival in LA. That was Trapped. That was short film. Check it out. It's on his website. Then we also had the AI Experiment, another short film. Won Audience Choice and runner-up. Congrats. In Afro Comic Con. So I enjoyed both. Trapped was something else. So that was interesting. Do you feel like winning these awards was validation for you? Or was it just kind of like, oh yeah, I knew these were the bomb and y'all just catching on because this is how awesome I am. Was it kind of validation or was it just like a nice to have?
I would say it's a nice to have.
Right.
To me, it's like this. I created something and it played. And with like Trapped, it played in the theater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
with
huge.
AI Experiment, it played in the theater. It was a festival when they both were there and they both played in the theater. Having the actresses and actors there and seeing the audience and watching them see something that was in my mind and I created it and we shot it, we put it into work and they get to see it. I could care less about the award. The fact that you saw it, that's always been the goal. I want you to see it. I want you to watch it.
All right. So with Trapped, I feel like, and this is actually what I wrote, I said, I feel like you did a lot with very little.
Yes.
Which is fantastic because it was proof that you don't need some big fancy production house. You don't need an entire big budget. You had 2 actors and 1 set. Yeah. That's pretty damn cool.
Like literally, it was for Trapped and AI Experiment, and I'm gonna stick on Trapped here, but I'm gonna say for both of them, it was total of 4 people. You had the 2 talents. You had myself and my older brother.
Wow.
That's the crew. Me and my older brother for both.
Wow.
Both shot in 1 day. Right.
Wow.
Both shot in 1 day.
So we're getting all the goods here, y'all. We're getting the goods here.
Both shot for under $250. And it's $250 because that was the Airbnb that I rented and food.
Wow.
So I'll say both have their pros and cons. And when I say pros and cons when you asked about if shooting with a smaller group or shooting with a larger set and cast and crew, and you have a fewer more people. I say both have their pros and cons. When it comes to a smaller set, you know that you're on a time frame and you have to get everything done in one day, and you know that this is the budget and we're just coming in and making it work. That is more along the lines of it's fun because you get to try stuff, right? You get to try stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fun in that ring. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, try that. You know, when that, just go for that, right? And you had the script that I wrote, but I'm like, I want you to make this your own, and then do this, and now try this, and you get to really have fun. It's more intimate in the sense of you get to develop, and everybody seeing it happen right then and there. And to me, that's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's fun. I'm going to be doing a lot more of those, right? It's just fun doing it, and it doesn't cost as much. It's sharpening your tools so you can make sure you're a better creator, and at the same time, you can push it out. Like I had that one, I think I edited it in like a week and I had it up. So it was like those type of things are fun to do. The hard part about them is you know that you're only in one location. You know that you don't have a big crew that's going to set up certain things that you probably want to bring to life. So you really, you're stuck with what you got.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So in that sense, it's like, you know what? The actors are always amazing. So the actors will be able to move and do what they need to do in whatever creative space you put them in.
Right.
And that's awesome.
So you've got some award-winning short films, but you have a feature film, full-length film, that you're working on right now.
Yes.
Called Pick a Side.
Yes.
I can say that, right?
Yes, Pick a Side.
Well, Pick a Side. How long did it take you to write that?
Whew. First draft was 2 months. Now, some people say, oh man, because I know people, you have to understand the approach that I had on this.
It probably took a lot longer than it took 2 months to write it.
To write it. Yes.
Okay.
Now the approach. Now I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm some crazy. No, I'm not the greatest writer. And I say writer as far as grammar goes.
Okay.
What I'm not afraid of doing is putting my story out there. When I started writing Pick a Side, what I did was I wrote bullet points. So I literally said, all right, let me write bullet points for this character. Let me write bullet points for this character. And then what do I want to happen in the first scene or the first act one? Because you have the 3-act structure, but I'm not trying to get into too much of that. But I just wrote down bullet points of what things that I would like to see. I wrote things that was personal to me. I wrote things that I thought would be cool ideas. And then I wrote those down. And then I put those in order. When would this happen? This should happen first or second. No, then what's the payoff? I need this. So then you build it. From that, I had like 20 pages worth of bullet points and just like certain quotes, certain things. When I think of something cool, I just take a note, I write it down. And then when I started writing the script, I can literally look at those bullet points and be like, oh, now I have a structure. I know that this is happening first, and then it's got to go into here. I got to figure out this cool line that I wrote. I want to add that into it. And when I got through with that first draft, I started reaching out and letting people read certain scenes and see what it sounds like, so you can get that genuine feedback. Not no yes man. I'm talking about people I want people to real, man. That stuff is crap.
Ooh, can we just divert for a second and talk about the yes man? Please get those people out of your life.
Yeah, don't need them.
You don't need them.
You
do not need them because they will steer you straight to hell.
You're not going to win with yes men. I just put it that way. You won't.
Yeah. You have to have people around you that are going to be honest.
Yes.
And people that actually have your best interest. And oftentimes telling you that sucks is in your best interest.
Exactly.
So again, please, hopefully folks are taking notes.
Yeah, take these notes, write these down. We're over here trying to drop some gems for you. That's what this is,
Of the entire, when you look at the whole process of creating a film, what to you is your favorite part of that? Is it the writing? Is it the post-production? Is it the production of it? Like, what is your favorite? What do you enjoy the most?
You know what? All of them was hard. No, all of them was hard because I was wearing so many hats. All of them was hard, but each moment had its good points. Now I'll say when it comes to production, it feels good because you know all of the work that you did, you know what I mean, to build up here. You see it start to unfold. when you have actors and they're saying some of the lines that you wrote, that it was those late nights where you were writing and trying to figure out how do I want this to come off and making sure that this was authentic and making sure this felt real. And then when you see it actually unfolding and you look and you're like, that shit worked.
Yeah, you're
right?
like, wow.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. So I'll say that is definitely a good moment.
You know, I've never, aside from chatting with you, I never thought that filmmaking was easy. I don't think anybody ever did. But hearing the details from you, it almost makes me wonder, as a novice filmmaker, I've never made a film, it almost seems impossible to make all this stuff happen. It's like, you know that phrase, movie magic?
Yes.
I think that's where that comes from, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, okay, all the stuff that we've talked about so far, it's like, and then you take all that, right? And then you look at all these different venues and all these different movies, and it's like, you wonder, how did all this shit get done?
Exactly.
Man, pardon my French.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, the way you make it sound, it would seem like it takes forever to make any of this stuff happen. But clearly, it does. But you have to, that's, I guess my point is that if you're driven, and you really, really have a goal and you really know that this is what you want to do, you just make it happen.
Exactly.
Let's talk about, real quick, your, you have a YouTube channel out there called Scenes.
Yes.
Which I like because you talk about a lot of technical stuff.
Yes.
So if you could just very briefly kind of talk about a little bit of that. And well, I guess I have a question here too. The pieces that you have up on there, are those part of a larger production, or are these scenes just that?
They are literally just that.
Because that is the most freaking creative damn thing that I have ever seen. Because it leaves you wondering. It leaves you wanting more. It leaves you wondering, well, what the hell happened before this?
Yes.
Well, how'd they get here? Why are they burying a body? Are they burying a body? I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
And how does it end? Like, okay, so that is freaking awesome and extremely creative, and I'll just kind of let you go and kind of go off on that a little bit.
Well, Scenes is literally what it is. It's just a scene. And the reason why I wanted to come up with it is because it's just, everybody, when you want to be creative, you don't have the big budget to try to make this whole piece. But what if you have a couple $100 and you saying, what if I just made a scene? Well, where is that going to be to? Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
Yes, you might have a good idea. Some people come up with it'd be cool if somebody walk in the house because they found this person messing around on them, and then they go in there and they just wreck the whole place up, right? They throwing kids, right? It's like just something random. It's just something random. People say, well, where did that start from? No. Just think about that scene. Just that scene. Because people will make a short film, which you still got to tell a full story.
You have to tell a full story.
Yeah, but a scene of just action is literally what I wanted to show.
You put a lot of emphasis on equipment.
Yeah.
Talk about why that's important. Because if anybody goes to your IG page, they will see you kind of playing around with your equipment and your cameras and your gear and all that kind of stuff. Why is that important?
Okay, I'll say one thing that I've always looked at is this is a competition. And when I say a competition, just competition with yourself, and you can take your cell phone and make something with it. I'm saying that that's all you have, do it. But when we have these dreams, you need to compete with the movie 1917. You're trying to compete with these people that got $200-300 million productions. So I've tried to do research and say, well, what can I do to try to be able to compete? Well, you have to have some of the stuff that they have. Not saying that you need gear to make something good.
Right.
But if you want to get on a platform, let's say Netflix, you want to start looking at Netflix originals, they have a whole spec sheet and requirement of things, of cameras that they don't accept and gear that they do. Now, this is just the cameras. So when you trying to get to that next level, you have to be able to play ball with the people that's playing ball. So to me, it was all a growth. I didn't just start off saying, let me just go spend money on it. No, it was definitely a slow process where I started off with the small camera that with the stock lens, and it was like, this is a $300 camera, and I'm trying to make music videos with my little brothers. I'm using my sisters. I'm making short films with me and them. I'm doing whatever I can, right? A camera is not going to make you a good filmmaker. A camera and gear is not going to.
Can you please say that again?
Yes, a camera is not going to make you a good filmmaker. Having all the most expensive gear is not going to make you.
Important.
Actually studying your craft and practicing and trying. And that's what I was doing. But then you get to a point where I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And they're like, hey, we want to get you out in LA and shoot this commercial for this company. But they're looking for a red. If you have that gear and that equipment, what happens is it opens up more doors. This gear doesn't mean that you're better at something. It just opens up more doors. You have these bigger and larger companies that want to really look. They're like, hey, I want this to be done with my gear. I want this to be shot on this. So me putting it on Instagram, I wanted to kind of show. It's like, hey, I'm showing the world. But like, yeah, over here in this business, we got the big boy toys too. We can play game. You know what I mean?
So I write children's books aside from doing all this stuff. So I am.
Hell yeah! You see that grind, y'all? Okay.
Yes, I actually do have a children's book coming out in the fall of 2021. So just figured I'd plug that
plug
real quick. Lee and Low Publishing.
That's what's up.
It is a book about the very first Black Navy SEAL.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Goins.
Yes, and congrats on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stuff, yes.
So in that literary industry, we always hear the phrase, when you're not writing, you should be reading.
Yes.
Does that ring the same in this industry as well? And I only ask that because it takes so much time to create.
Yeah.
Like how do you, so the question is kind of twofold. How do you manage, how do you time manage, and how do you do that research at the same time to continue to stay fluent in your craft?
Yeah. Well, I'll say it does kind of like coin the same phrase in a sense. If you're not researching or creating, you should be, watching.
Right.
Now, I look at watching film, that's kind of like, I'm not going to say that's not the priority. Now, the reasons why it's not a priority is because if you're watching a lot of films, that's a lot of time. And then you're taking time from, you're going to be watching everybody else's stuff and they'll never be watching yours.
Exactly.
Because you'll always be watching
you have to have a balance, right?
Yeah, and my balance, I usually look at it is, and I'm just throwing out some numbers, it's not probably fully accurate, but it's like 75 is me grinding and 25 is if I'm going to take some time to look at a film. And it's probably actually a little bit, probably like 80-20.
And I want to just kind of harp on that a little bit more because for us creatives, time management is very, very challenging.
Yes.
Like, it is late nights. You have to have a really, really understanding family.
Yes.
Okay. You have to have a really understanding support system. You have to have people in your circle that really get it.
Yes.
That will understand that I can't come to the barbecue. Because or whatever. I can't do XYZ because I'm grinding.
Yes.
Right now.
No, it's definitely that. It's definitely that.
Yeah. So that time management piece, and I think time management is really difficult. Especially when you work a job and you have family.
Man, it is hard.
And just a lot of late nights. Yeah.
I'll say how I was doing it, and it's just a little bit on how I was writing the script. So what I did was, at first I was like, I'm going to just write 3 pages every day. That don't necessarily mean they got to be good.
Right.
But write 3 pages every day. And now how I would do it is I'll wait till everybody lay down. So this is how everybody's laying down. So you still spending time. You're out there playing with your kids. You're spending time with your wife or your husband, however you're doing it. But you're doing that, and then you're eating dinner. You're still trying to stay in the zone what everybody's doing. And then after they all lay down, that could be 9, 10 o'clock. It could be 11. Then you go over there and you put that work in.
Yes.
And I would put in 3 pages. I did that every day, and then I burned out. I was like, I was just sitting at the computer like this.
Zombie.
Like this. They ain't typing nothing. I'm just there. And I told my wife, I'm like, nah, that's not cool. I had a headache.
Good.
So then I did every other day.
Okay.
So I was literally day on, write 3 pages. The next day, I get to kick it. And then I write 3 pages. Next day, and I did that. And that's how I finished that script.
Okay. So time management.
Time management.
If you don't take anything else away, we gave y'all a lot of gems so far. But as we're kind of winding up to the end of this, time management is key. And if you cannot grasp that concept, success will be a lot harder.
Yes.
Okay. So what is this is the last question. What is some actionable, and I have to use that word, actionable, because in a lot of these interviews you see online, people get advice and it's like, one of those phrases like keep hope alive.
Yeah. Do it. Come on.
What is some actionable feedback that you could give to the audience if someone is watching this and they want to do what you've done? And you don't necessarily know where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
But what would you say is actionable advice that you can give to someone in terms of do X?
I'll say the biggest thing is don't worry about failing. Try it. And when I'm saying you're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to have all the knowledge. Nobody does. You know what I mean? I shot a feature film and I was learning while I was doing it too. Don't use any excuses. Just start. Start anywhere.
Right.
That would be the biggest thing I would say. Do not worry about gear. I know that we had this conversation about gear.
Yeah.
Don't worry about gear.
Right. That's the takeaway.
Yeah. Don't worry about gear. Just do it. Gear will come. That will happen if you're still grinding. Do not worry about it to start. Try and do something. Yeah. Even if it's for free. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about money. Do shit for free.
Yeah.
Say that again. Do it for free. Learn.
Yes.
When you do it for free, you building a portfolio. And when you build a portfolio, people start to see the work and you start to get better. And then you can start to command some money. Yeah. Don't worry about that. Just keep going.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, that is it. That is everything that I think I've asked you maybe 1,001 questions. That's what it felt like. I don't know about you. But again, thank you so much, Ed. Yes. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and having this conversation and for educating our audience. I created this as a platform to do exactly what I'm sitting here doing, which is talking to people like you who where the fame has not gotten to their head, where the money has not necessarily started rolling in, where, you're not necessarily a household name, but where there is just amazing amount of potential. And so that is what Before They Get Famous is all about. It is talking to people who I know has star potential and will definitely see their name in lights at some point. And so you have been blessed with a sneak peek, okay? Because, last question. With the name game.
Yes.
If your name should pop up on that list one day, what would you want people to say about you? There you go. That's it. That was it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Make sure you check out all of our social media, Edward Green Films and Snazzy Awards. We're on IG and I'm also on Twitter. I'm also Alana Tyson on Twitter, so you can follow either one of my pages and then website as well. I'll make sure to include all of that info on the screen so you don't have to memorize it or anything, and you can check all of that out. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Cool.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Getting it done.